Welcome back, folks. Today, we're delving into one of the most haunting mysteries in recent aviation history, the tragic story of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17. Buckle up as we embark on a detailed exploration of the events, investigations, and geopolitical ramifications surrounding this fateful flight. Let's set the stage. It's March 2014, and the aviation world is rocked by the sudden disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. With the search efforts ongoing and no definitive answers in sight, the world is left grappling with uncertainty. Little do we know, another Malaysian Airlines flight is about to meet a similarly tragic fate just a few months later. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17, a Boeing 777-200ER, departs from Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport en route to Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia. The flight is routine, with 283 passengers and 15 crew members on board, including 80 children. Among them are families, vacationers, and business travelers, all with their own stories, dreams, and aspirations. However, MH17's journey takes a devastating turn. What was supposed to be a routine flight turns into a tragedy that will send shockwaves around the globe and raise profound questions about safety, accountability, and the turbulent geopolitics of the region. At approximately 1:20 p.m. local time, just hours after takeoff, MH17 disappears from radar screens while flying over eastern Ukraine. There is no distress signal, no communication from the cockpit, just sudden silence. The abrupt disappearance sparks immediate concern among air traffic controllers and aviation authorities, who scramble to determine the fate of the flight and its passengers. Within minutes, speculation begins to swirl about the cause of MH17's disappearance. Initial reports suggest that the aircraft may have been shot down by a surface-to-air missile while flying over a conflict zone in eastern Ukraine. As the hours pass, the grim reality begins to sink in. MH17 has become the latest victim of a senseless act of violence, adding another layer of tragedy to an already turbulent year for aviation. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the international community demands answers. Who is responsible for the downing of MH17? Was it a deliberate act of aggression or a tragic mistake? As speculation and accusations swirl, governments, aviation authorities, and independent investigators mobilize to uncover the truth behind the disaster. Among the key players in the investigation is the Dutch Safety Board, DSB, tasked with leading the official inquiry into the crash. Their mandate is clear: to conduct a thorough and impartial investigation into the circumstances surrounding the downing of MH17 and to determine the cause of the tragedy. Over the course of 12 to 18 months, investigators painstakingly pieced together the events leading up to the disaster, analyzing radar data, satellite imagery, cockpit voice recordings, and wreckage recovered from the crash site. Their goal is to reconstruct the sequence of events and establish a definitive timeline of what happened to MH17 on that fateful day. As the investigation progresses, multiple theories emerge about the cause of the crash. Some speculate that MH17 was deliberately targeted by a surface-to-air missile, while others suggest it may have been caught in the crossfire of the ongoing conflict between Ukrainian government forces and pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. However, one theory gains traction: the possibility that MH17 was shot down by a Buk surface-to-air missile system, a sophisticated weapon capable of engaging aircraft at high altitudes. If proven true, it would point to a deliberate act of aggression and raise serious questions about who was responsible for deploying the missile and why. The downing of MH17 sends shockwaves through the international community, triggering a diplomatic crisis and exacerbating tensions between Russia and Western powers. As evidence emerges implicating pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine, the spotlight shifts to Moscow, which vehemently denies any involvement in the tragedy. World leaders condemn the attack, calling for justice and accountability for the victims of MH17 and their families. The United Nations Security Council convenes emergency meetings to address the crisis, while governments around the world consider imposing sanctions against Russia in response to the downing of the civilian airliner. Amidst the diplomatic fallout, investigators continue their painstaking work, sifting through the wreckage, analyzing data, and interviewing witnesses in search of clues that could shed light on the circumstances surrounding the downing of MH17. Their efforts are relentless, driven by a commitment to uncover the truth and hold those responsible to account. Yet despite years of investigation and analysis, many questions remain unanswered. Who gave the order to deploy the Buk missile system? Was it a deliberate act of aggression or a tragic mistake? And perhaps most importantly, will the families of the victims ever receive the closure and justice they deserve? As the search for answers continues, one thing is clear. The downing of MH17 was not just a tragedy, but a stark reminder of the dangers posed by armed conflicts in civilian airspace. Who gave the order to deploy the Buk missile system? Despite extensive investigations, the specific individuals responsible for deploying the Buk missile system that downed MH17 have not been definitively identified. Various parties have been accused, including pro-Russian separatist forces in eastern Ukraine and potentially even Russian military personnel. However, concrete evidence linking specific individuals to the deployment order has been elusive. Was the downing of MH17 a deliberate act of aggression or a tragic mistake? This question remains a subject of debate and speculation. While some argue that the downing of MH17 was a deliberate act of aggression intended to target a civilian aircraft, others believe it may have been a tragic mistake resulting from confusion or misidentification. Without clear evidence of intent, determining the true nature of the incident remains challenging. As the search for answers continues, one thing is clear. The downing of MH17 was not just a tragedy, but a stark reminder of the dangers posed by armed conflicts in civilian airspace. The loss of innocent lives serves as a sobering reminder of the need for greater international cooperation and vigilance to prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future. As we reflect on the events of that fateful day, let us honor the memory of the 298 souls who perished aboard MH17 and rededicate ourselves to the pursuit of truth, justice, and accountability. Their legacy will forever be remembered, and their loss will never be forgotten. But amidst the denials and accusations, one thing is clear. The world demands answers. MH370's March 2017 disappearance left us reeling. But it was MH17's tragic fate that shook the world in July 2014. As the clock struck 1:20 p.m. on July 17, 2014, MH17 vanished from radar, plunging into the depths of uncertainty. Malaysian Airlines' frantic search yielded no answers, only haunting silence. What happened to MH17? Where did it disappear to? Suspicion loomed large over Russia. Speculation ran rampant. Theories swirled. But one fact remained undeniable. This plane was lost, and the world was on edge as investigators raced against time to uncover the truth behind MH17's fate. Was it an accident or something more sinister? The blame game begins with fingers pointing towards Russia. Prepare to dive deep into one of the most gripping aviation mysteries of our time. The journey begins, but little did anyone know it would end in tragedy and intrigue. MH370 vanished into thin air, leaving behind a trail of questions and uncertainty. The world was plunged into shock once again with MH17's mysterious disappearance. Imagine a world where a commercial airliner vanishes into thin air, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and speculation. That's the eerie reality surrounding the baffling disappearance of MH370. But wait, it gets even more perplexing.